It's me. Okay, people are still filing back in, but we've got an amazing speaker coming up next, so please hurry back if you're not already in your seats. Here in New York, we're pretty obsessed with the on-demand economy because we're all either really lazy or we're working a lot harder than the folks in San Francisco. We don't have time to get things, so they have them brought to us. I've gotten really used to being able to get eggs and like coffee or milk, Chipotle perhaps, on demand, and so I've decided to take it to a new level and start asking for really impossible stuff, like a sunny day, or like a better attitude, like something like that. And I think that our next guest is thinking along those lines too. How can we achieve the impossible through on-demand? Please welcome to the stage Bastian Lehmann from Postmates and John Schieber, our moderator.
Sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, y'all want a good panel, and we will hopefully deliver.
Let's do it.
Sorry, had to.
This is huge.
This is a massive
I'm
hall.
a little scared.
So, I guess we should start off with like, what's new at Postmates? What's been going on?
You know, busy signing up partnerships.
Yeah.
You know, Chipotle, Starbucks, a few others in the pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
I think what's interesting is that after we've been like doing this for 3 years,
Right.
In the last 6 months, what happened is that a lot of the larger players in the market, they got out and they started talking to firms like Postmates.
Right.
They believe that there is now a market for on-demand or same-day delivery, and they're trying to close partnerships, and we're in a fortunate situation to win a few of them.
Now let's for the traditional use case, or for sort of the main business of delivering food from restaurants. You've got 1.5 million deliveries that you've done, so that you're up to 1.5 million deliveries, right?
Actually, we did since last week. We're at 2 million deliveries.
Oh, sorry.
So
wow. So hockey stick.
It's a hockey stick.
Yeah.
Remember, it took us 10 weeks to get to 1.5 million.
Right.
It took us 7.5 weeks to get to 2. So it's still going faster.
There you go. And is a lot of that growth now being driven by these partnerships? How much of that is predicated on these new deals that you have with folks like Starbucks or Chipotle?
So those deals are still getting implemented. You know, Starbucks rollout will begin somewhere, I believe, in June in Seattle. The great thing about that is that we're fully integrated into their mobile order and pay system. And Chipotle was just announced last week, so most of the growth that you see is excluding any of the large partnerships.
Okay. When you started the business, it didn't start out in food delivery, right?
No.
It started out as more of getting someone to run an errand for you, basically. When did you transition into the delivery model, and what drove that sort of shift?
Zero traction. So the very first iteration of Postmates basically was a service that merchants could use to deliver items that they have in stock. Now, 3 years ago, and we went to San Francisco and we signed up 60 or 70 merchants, all retail, and furniture stores, electronic stores, and you know, we went in there and we said, here's an app that you can push a button whenever you sell something to a customer and have that thing delivered in San Francisco. And the merchants were like, yeah, this is the greatest thing in the world. Right. I wanted this forever. And we're like, cool, because we built it for you. And then nothing happened.
Right.
So there were like 1 or 2 deliveries a day, very, very few deliveries. And we called these merchants and we're like, what's going on? Like, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, you know, didn't come up, couldn't use it, you know, person took the stuff. So, but what happened at the same time, and this is a great way to think about products sometimes, and why it's important to listen to what happens with your products. Customers used the app, as in consumers, like you and I would download it, and they would try to get a Postmates to purchase him something. So they would say things like, go to Safeway and get this for me. Right. But we had no means of payment for the Postmates. So I would get angry, as I do, because I'm German, and I would say, nein, this is verboten, you're not allowed to do that. But after a while, there were so many of these requests that we decided to do a test on the weekend. And on that weekend, my co-founder and I, we equipped our fleet, at that point like 25 people, in San Francisco with Visa gift cards. And these Visa gift cards were used to make purchases. And I don't remember the exact number, but we sent out a little newsletter to our user base and we said, hey, if you include the hashtag #GetItNow in the description, in the item description,
right,
we're going to go out and we purchase that thing for you. And on the first weekend, we sold something around $10,000 worth of stuff. And most of that was prepared food.
Right. Huh. Now, when you look at sort of where the business is today, if you were to launch Postmates right now,
yeah,
would it look like Digit? Would it look like one of these sort of on-demand text services? Do you like the interface that those guys have? Where do you see yourselves falling? Like what?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of it. Again, the first version of Postmates, and still today, the custom order field is like a super popular thing that you have in the Postmates app. It allows you to say things like, get me extra guacamole from Chipotle, right, or it allows you to type a specific pair of sneakers to get from a Nike store. So even when we don't have inventory, I think Postmates was one of these companies that really pioneered. Again, the name "Get It Now" of the first version of the app kind of translates to that. So I think it's a great idea, creating something like a human cloud.
Right. Do you wish? I mean, like looking back, do you think that you could have spent that time just sort of narrowing in on the food category? Because it seems like when these businesses are successful, they're successful because they attack a niche market, right?
Yeah.
And they go after something like organic food,
yeah,
or prepared food, or food from the burrito place down the street, yeah, that doesn't take deliveries.
So I mean, that's exactly what we did. Right. For the public, we left Postmates open for your imagination a little bit. The idea of anything from anywhere helped us because it is very sexy. But what we did internally is we had a strategy and that is based around the principle of food is like books.
Right.
So if you look at food, it's a category that has universal demand at a relatively low price point, and there's unlimited inventory in prepared food. So just like Amazon used books at the beginning to scale extremely fast for exactly the same reasons that I just outlined, we did the same with food. And today we're the largest on-demand delivery company because we focused on prepared food. It allowed us to scale the fleet very fast. It allowed us to have a use case that's super compelling and a high repetitive usage.
So what's next for you in terms of markets that y'all might look to enter? Where else can you expand within this notion of sort of food delivery? Would you like to sort of compete or go after someone like Instacart that's doing grocery deliveries, or?
Yeah. So we're thinking about having a better grocery product on the roadmap. There's a funny notion that we're already competing with Instacart because you can get Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Safeway delivered. But the reality is it's a really small portion of our total delivery volume, and we have invested very little time in that category. But for, I would say, Q3, there are a few items on the roadmap that will make it a lot more attractive. With or without partnerships, we'll see how that works out. But there is a lot of interest in that category. Personal hygiene is another category, healthcare, beauty. So you're thinking about the corner store. That's another category that we're very interested in.
And for y'all, what do margins of this business look like? And how are you doing in terms of revenue? When do you think you might hit profitability?
Yeah. So again, we try to build a company that can generate a profit with every delivery, and that is what we're doing. I think we actually have a quite healthy gross margin, and we're very proud of that, and we're trying to keep that. And we're also operating on a path to profitability. And in 2016, we want to be profitable or can be profitable as a company if we decide to do that. I think it's something that's very attractive, and I think it shows that we are able to carefully model a very complex business with a lot of moving parts, right, that we're able to drive improvements. And that the product really is a product that customers understand that they pay for the value that it provides.
Right. So I started writing about tech here in New York in 1999, 2000. And I remember when I first started writing, there was this really amazing company that had a cool logo and a really great sort of delivery service called Cosmo.com.
Yeah.
Huge, like one of the bigger busts, along with Webvan, of like that first .com era. How are you not Cosmo? Like, what lessons did you learn from them? Farhad Manju brought up Instacart and sort of was worried that Instacart might be Webvan. Might y'all be Cosmo? And how do you avoid that?
So Cosmo was a super interesting company. I believe that they were way ahead of their time. And I mean that they were way ahead of their time, that the product that they offered, they weren't able to monetize in a way that you need to do it in order to have a profitable business. So Cosmo was free for a long time. And when it wasn't free, it was a ridiculously low delivery fee. And the idea was that Cosmo had that they can monetize exclusively on the GMV that they would sell, and they would take a cut of these things. Now, they also ran warehouses. They had warehouse space in Manhattan.
Right.
Crazy expensive at the time. There is an old version of the Cosmo balance sheet available somewhere on the web. and you find some of these things. I know that because when we started Postmates, there was not a single mention of same-day delivery other than Cosmo, which is nuts if you look at Google today.
Right.
So we want to use the city as a warehouse. We're relying on an existing infrastructure, and I think those are two key differentiators. Now, the third one, just to add that, I don't know how many messengers they had, but let's just say it was a couple of hundred in New York. They routed them manually. So most of it was two-way radios.
Right.
And imagine how good of a person, regardless of how efficient you are as an operator that tries to route your 4 or 5 guys, there is a limit to the efficiencies that you can derive from that system. And in Postmates land, it's very similar to Uber and Lyft land, you have these very big teams of engineers working on trying to make the logistics side more and more efficient.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned sort of the number of the profusion of on-demand delivery services that are now available. You Google it and you get all sorts of responses. According to Crunchbase data, there's about $1.28 billion raised this year for delivery startups of one stripe or another. Holy shit, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
How do you deal with all of that competition? Like, when you does the industry have to consolidate at this?
Oh yeah, it will happen at some point. Again, I think what is, in my personal opinion, crucial is that this is a space where a first mover advantage is there. It may not be a winner takes all market, but it's definitely a winner takes most market. If you look at the 24 markets that we're operating in, some of them, San Francisco, obviously, LA is our largest city, Chicago is large, so is New York. We see that we're really able to lock in supply, that we're able to grow even though we're live over a year in some of these markets at a very fast pace. So getting into these markets early paid off for us. And locking in the supply side is what comes with that. So again, I said it before, I don't want to sound like I'm repeating the point, but within 3 years, we were able to build the largest on-demand delivery fleet. It's over 10,000 people doing deliveries. It's twice as much as the closest competitor.
Well, for now, right? But as Uber starts to launch into this, if Amazon decides that they're going to take this more seriously, when do they just acquire you? Like, would you accept a couple? Someone earlier said, you know, any offer with a B, I'll take a look at. Would you, if you got like $1 billion offer from one of these guys, would you be like, maybe look, I can work with Travis? I
mean, of course, everybody would, of course, you would consider it. I mean, the job.
Are you talking to them now?
No.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay.
But the job as a CEO is to do that, and at the same time make sure that the reason that this company was created can be fulfilled in either of these scenarios, either by itself or alone. So what does it mean? It means that if there is an opportunity to continue to work on the Postmates vision as part of something that is a lot bigger, and in return it would mean that we could fulfill this vision a lot faster, that is something that is very entertaining to think about.
Yeah.
An acquisition or a consolidation that would look like, yeah, great, here's a shit ton of money.
Right.
Now, shut up talking about Postmates, talk about brand X,
Right.
and go in the basement and work on it.
Right.
I think is way less compelling.
Right.
All of the three founders, we come from backgrounds, very middle class. We are very driven by the idea that Postmates can really help local businesses.
Right.
And I think seeing that vision through is very important for us.
When we spoke on the phone, I want to shift gears a little bit and sort of talk about this notion of the on-demand economy or the collaborative consumption economy, whatever it is,
Yep.
where you're sort of acting as a service provider where you've got these contractors basically
Yep.
who are working for you for delivery. What does that mean? Looking out, what are the ramifications of that for sort of the broader American economy? Are we just creating this sort of class of people who have to do these sort of menial, shitty jobs while tech entrepreneurs?
Earpieces.
Oh no.
We have a malfunction here on the.
Yeah, I'm never good at this. While tech entrepreneurs just sort of get to chill out and do their work and make orders of magnitude more.
So, I don't think so. I think it's different markets that gets created. I think of Postmates is probably America's best part-time job. I would love to be this a full-time job in the future, and there is around 15-20% of our Postmates that look at it as a full-time job. But the reality is it's probably a really good part-time job. It pays a lot more than other part-time jobs. If we look at a median compensation in San Francisco during peak times, or maybe of around $19, non-peak times around $17 per hour, again, median.
Wow.
That's 40-50% more than a barista makes.
Right.
So I think it has a lot to do with the approach and how you want to position the company. And I think we're not running around and claiming that this is like the greatest full-time job in the world. We believe it's a more honest approach to say, look, this is a really solid part-time job, and the way our Postmates engage on the platform reflects that.
So what is a typical Postmates delivery guy, employee?
Yeah.
What do you have a sense of their demographics? What do they look like?
So for a lot of people use it, as I said earlier, as complementary income.
Right.
It is people that have another job or maybe another part-time job. And we do these surveys to the fleet, and we obviously talk to them, and we have like weekly get-togethers in all these markets. And the flexibility is what people like as the number one reason. And the second reason is the income, especially the income at the times when they want it. And that's a huge thing. But who they are, I mean, they're just like amazing. I really believe that, which is something I think corporate America should think about a little bit. There is a movement happening that is a lot against the 9-to-5 clock job. There are people out there that are writers, people that are artists, that probably in the past had to have specific jobs in order to provide an income, that can now look at platforms like Lyft or Uber or Postmates, where they can be active in a much more flexible setup.
Right. So you don't think that in some way, like, you're not worried at all about the labor pool that is Postmates sort of bread and butter, the guys who are providing the service?
Yeah.
They're not going to go away as sort of the economy improves and you get further out from the financial crisis, which I think was part of a motivator for some people to take on these part-time jobs.
I don't think so. I give you an example. John Collison, founder of Stripe, was a Postmates for a few days. He wants to get fit, so he's doing it more for fun. But he posted about his earnings. I think he worked for 3 hours on duty during peak time, so when it's extremely busy. He made, I believe, $98 doing a bunch of deliveries. Now, that is substantial additional income, and I believe there is always going to be a room for that. But even if things are changing, then I think it's a company has to adjust along these changes. But for now, I think this being a part-time job is very attractive for a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah. What is the weirdest thing that you've ever seen anyone have to deliver through Postmates? What was the craziest sort of order?
I get this fucking question asked all the time. And you know what?
I'm glad to know I'm so basic.
But I'm
Thanks, man.
I'm such an idiot that I really never ever think about it thoroughly. So
Right.
I tell the same story every time. So I feel like there must be something better. So anecdotally, at night people get whippets delivered. I can tell you. So,
We've got the weed startup earlier today
the
and the
thing.
Whippet delivery service now. This is great.
So people get whippets delivered. We had the delivery that I referenced to a lot was a bottle of champagne and a pregnancy test. What you can figure out how libertarian you are on which side of the wall that coin.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So those are kind of
Right. And on the service front, not like keys and things like, and people are still doing that, right? Having like things dropped off from one side of town to the other.
they do it, but most of it is purchases.
Okay. And I think with that, I'm going to say thank you so much for the time, sir. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And y'all have a good one. Enjoy the rest of the show.